Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's World of Work for Educators episode. This is a series that we run on LinkedIn, especially directed to you guys who are educators and innovators in the field of education. Today we have Karina Fuerte today with us to talk about innovation in education. But first, I thought I'd give you guys an introduction to Nexgen Careers. Nexgen Careers is all about supporting individuals in the future or finding success in the future world of work. And that's our mission. And how we do that is by providing on-site programs here in Barcelona, but also digital programs on career design and skills development for the future world of work. And alongside all that, we run these interviews partly for educators in this WOW Ed series, as it's called for short. And we also run expert talks twice a month, and we also have career design sessions, which we are launching now in November. So it's a lot of live talks going on in our community, and yeah, so that's like a short introduction into Nexgen Careers and what it is that we're doing and what conversations that you can join in with us live. So I'm going to hand over the baton to Andreu, who will be leading this interview with Karina today. So hello, Andreu. Welcome in.
Thank you, Cecilia. And thank you, Karina, for joining us today here. I've been a long-time follower of the newsletter that you are curating, I believe, for the last 8 years, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it would be great that you introduce yourself. I would just give like short the title of what you put on your LinkedIn resume, but it would be nice that you kind of like elaborate a little bit on this. So Karina is the chief editor of the Instituto de Innovación. How we say that?
For the future of education.
The future of education at the Tecnológico of Monterrey. Yes. And she's also the curator of a newsletter that, if I'm not mistaken, has like 217,000 subscribers.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's huge. I'm one of those, so I'm proud. I've been following you for long, and I'm really happy to have you here because I know you have a lot of insights when it comes to the future of education, the present of education. But also what it concerning more what is the bridge between the world of work and the world of education, and how can we kind of like get them closer together. So welcome, Karina, and elaborate a little bit more.
Exciting to be here and honored to be part of this series. So I thank you, Andreu and Cecilia and Nexgen Careers, for inviting me to be here today. I am sorry if in the background there is some noises, but my dog is really making some weird things right now. I don't know why, but I hope that it stops during the interview. Sorry.
So far we couldn't hear him, so or her or it.
Sorry, what?
We couldn't hear anything so far. So it's good.
Awesome. Great. So an introduction about myself, right?
Yes. What is that you do, and what is that the institute does?
Yeah, I'm Karina Fuerte. I am from Mexico, from Monterrey city, which is located in the north part of Mexico, which is also the home for the Tecnológico de Monterrey, which is the university that I work for. And recently we launched the Institute for the Future of Education, which it's aiming to just like creating like a really, how can I say it, like a really cluster for innovation, specifically for innovation in education. So we are launching already, but we are creating a lot of initiatives. The observatory is part of them. And I am the editor-in-chief of the observatory. What I do mostly is editing content, which is the boring part of it. But I also write the newsletter that you mentioned, and that is a big part of my work right now. And yeah, that's basically my LinkedIn resume for in short,
Before we jump into more about the innovation, I'm more interested, like, where does this passion from innovation and education comes from?
Thank you for that. I mean, first of all, I would like to acknowledge that this is a team effort. I mean, the newsletter, I write the newsletter, but the newsletter doesn't write itself just by me, Our newsletter wouldn't be possible without my colleagues and the work they put on every day. So I will take this opportunity that you're bringing me here to thank Ruby, Paulette, Sofia, Fernanda, Grecia, Esteban, Chris, Javier, and of course all the teachers and collaborators that work with us with the observatory, because without them, honestly, I wouldn't have content to share every week, every Tuesday. So I'm really grateful for having them as my colleagues, and thankful because none of this will exist without them. But regarding your question, I guess my passion goes beyond innovation in education. It is obviously a part of what I do and what I do not only at the observatory but at Tecnológico in Monterrey. But what I'm inspired by, it's the purpose of education in itself and the people behind it. What I'm really passionate about is the educational community, and by that I mean the people that make education possible. Obviously, teachers, students, therapists, counselors, librarians, academic staff, non-teaching staff, and all the people that make education possible inside the classroom, in the schools and universities, but also behind the scenes as well. My passion or my inspiration really stems from them, from the community. And how can my work, or how can I what I do every day make a contribution to them and to the really valuable work that they do every day?
Thanks for your answer. And I know I'm going a bit off track, but I think there's something that really interests me, that you mentioned about the purpose of education. And I think this has been something that it's been into debate for the last, I would say, 10 years, because previously the purpose of education was to create people that was ready to enter the workforce, and the workforce was something quite clear. But now this line it's not as clear. So what would be for you the purpose of education, formal education? Because we are talking about schools, high schools, universities. What is the purpose, in your opinion?
Yes, in my opinion, the purpose of education is and should be, if it's not, finding who we are, finding the answers or the path towards the answer to questions that are really actually existential and really philosophical. But I think that they are the main questions that should be the main purpose of education. For example, who am I? What is my purpose in this life? What are my values? So I think just getting to know that, to really know who I am, which is a big question, that should be the main objective of education, to let us know how can we get to that answer, or to give us not only the skills but the knowledge to be able to answer each one of us. Yeah, for me that's the purpose of education.
Thanks for. I think I'm pretty aligned with your view on what is the purpose of education. So I think it's nice. I'm assuming that we are not that yet, but the things are changing. I think things are changing, and there's models that are interesting out there that go towards that direction. But I know I'm going completely off tangent, so I'm just going to go back on track and kind of like ask you, before we move on to more the wall of work, which is what we focus on. You curate a newsletter, and you said that that's part of the job that you do. And as we aim to be a company that creates a lot of content, we have an interest to know a little bit how your thought process is behind and how your brain works when you are curating this huge amount of information that is out there. What is the value of curating, and how is your thought process behind that process?
Yes, I wish I know how my brain works, but my day-to-day, I'm trying to get to the answer to your question, but first, my day-to-day can look pretty boring actually, because to be honest with you, a huge part of my work consists of copy editing, check for misspellings, and other attention detail reviews that had to be done before publishing an article. That is, let's say, the boring part that comes with the job. But I also do lots of reading. I read a lot, and I think that's the part that sets up the mood behind each newsletter, and that is the part that I really enjoy the most, reading actually. So sometimes reading an article, an opinion piece, any news, or even a tweet can provoke last-minute changes in the newsletter, or even change the whole topic of the editorial comment of the week, which I know it sounds pretty crazy, but sometimes it does. So even though my thought process for the newsletter has like an established and really precise protocol, the newsletter itself has a pretty much established protocol and a template and everything. The process can look pretty hectic sometimes because of that. But I think that it's also what makes it really exciting and fun, because it's different every week. So I don't know if that answered your question.
I think it does. I think, and hopefully that helps also Cecilia, because she is kind of like starting to build a newsletter for us, and she does a lot of content creation and curation. So hopefully that helps for seeing that it's chaotic for everyone, Cecilia, not only for you.
Yeah, it's really chaotic, and it's really personal, I think. But reading helps a lot. I mean, I do lots of reading, not only articles, obviously, in journals and newsletters. I am subscribed to a really crazy amount of newsletters, which really inspire me, and where I get many ideas from, obviously. So I will suggest you, Cecilia, to subscribe to them, as many newsletters as you can handle, as you want, and just see what everyone is saying, because you can really notice when a newsletter is being automated, like by an algorithm, and when it's made by a human. I'm sorry. It really makes the difference for me, and I think.
And I think it kind of answers the question that I was saying, like, what is the value of curating that amount?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, your job is like, okay, there's this quantity of things that are happening in education. Which ones, in our opinion as Observatorio, are the ones more relevant? And that's the value of curation, that you are taking that time for us, that we are interested in this, to let us know what is the most important for you guys. And then we trust your criteria that, oh, that is relevant. If they are talking about this, it's because it's relevant. So I trust you and not the algorithm.
Yes, of course. And I follow many newsletters, many humans behind newsletters that really resonate with me. Their message really resonate with me. So yeah, it depends on the people. I mean, maybe the ones that are my favorites are not going to be your favorites, and that's okay, because you have a different set of values and different opinions, and that's okay. I mean, there are many, as you said, Andreu, there is like tons of information out there, and what we are trying to do through the observatory, and specifically through this newsletter, is to just not do the job for you, but telling you what it's important for us and what I think and we think you should be paying attention to.
So I think that ties really well into my following question. You said that you do a lot of reading, and that you kind of trying to pinpoint what are the things that people in that community that you said you mentioned and you care about should be paying attention to. So in the last, let's say 18 months now, I think it's a bit more now, there's been a lot of changes in all sectors have been impacted by COVID. We know that before March 2020, there was already some trends that were having kind of like they were picking up momentum within the education field. So after now we've been year and a half in this crisis, what are those trends that you saw before or that have amplified or picking up even more speed at exponential rate, and those that you think that are not here to stay that came through the pandemic?
Yes. For me, the pandemic really highlighted the value of online education. Obviously, it saved us really. This past 18 months, as you said, and during quarantine mostly. But before the pandemic, many people thought that online education, for example, or online programs or degrees were lower quality. Some people still feel that way, but I think that's increasingly changing. There is a change in perspective towards online degrees and online education, and some institutions bet many years ago on online education. I mean, here in Spain, we have a few that had set the example and paved the way for others who are just getting started on online education. So that's one for me. I think online education. I don't know if we can call it a trend, but I think that now. Because of COVID-19, we could say that it's a trend that is here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And another trend that emerged during the pandemic, and I think will stay with us for a while, as well as the virus in itself, because I mean, who knows when the pandemic will end. It's hybrid education. And by that, I mean programs that are flexible enough, moldable enough, so that can be adapted according to the circumstances the world is living or your particular institution or city is living, and the circumstances that your students and teachers and families need in that particular time. And that's so yeah, that's another trend that I think is here to stay. Hybrid programs which involve both online and face-to-face education. But I also see lots of movements around the world that seek to improve people's working conditions and living conditions in specifically. In the education sector is obviously no exception, and the pandemic has revealed many problems or issues that we have already dragged on for many years, and in particular that COVID-19 make us rethink our relationship with work and the place and the priority that work has in our lives. So in general, I feel that the pandemic like stirred many things within us, like many feelings and questions within us. And as I said before, when you asked me about the purpose of education should be, in my opinion, I think that these feelings and these issues that are emerging because of the pandemic have also paved the way to for us to be rethinking many things, many existential even questions such as who am I? What is my purpose in this life? Which are my values? Again, so for me, all new ventures, all new activities, initiatives, all changes and improvements that do not take these issues, these human and holistic issues into account, are really set up to fail, because if any project or any program is not, it doesn't have the aim to improve our lives and improve society, then what is the purpose of that particular initiative, you know? So
and kind of like ties really well into kind of like moving into the wall of work. Like I think you're putting it really nicely, because obviously we have a huge community which are workers, but we're trying to see as well what people are calling the great resignation. No,
yeah.
people are talking about that, and we've seen the numbers of people that quit their jobs only in the States, 20% more in July than previous years. And I think that one of the reasons that are underlying as those questions that came out through the pandemic is like, how do we want to work? How do we want to relate to work? And there was a pre-existing skill gap there, that education in some cases are missing to fail. So we move more on okay, how can we support this generation Z and generation Alpha to kind of match this skill gap, no? That they are still in an education sector that maybe in some cases, in most cases, it's kind of like very content driven still, and traditional credentials, and then they have these existential questions about how they want to live, how they want to interact with the world of work. How can we support this generation moving into that uncertain world where there is a lot of skill shortages and a lot of jobs opening, but companies are not hiring because they don't find the right candidates? It's kind of like a weird conundrum that we are there.
Yeah, that is huge. That is not only happening in the US but also worldwide. And I think I don't think that companies are not finding the right candidates. I think they're, I don't know, candidates are not finding the right companies. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think we are increasingly like reevaluating what we want from work and our careers. So obviously many have to leave their jobs because of COVID, because they were sick, or because they have to take care of someone in their family or community who was sick. But many others were laid off, or some others really just quit because they couldn't do it anymore, because they have like this biggest existential crisis, you know, in their lives. And that is really shifting work in itself and our lives in every aspect of it. But specifically about what you asked about Gen Zs and Gen Alpha and younger generations, I think we should honestly be asking them for help and support instead of the other way around. I mean, we should ask them not only how can I find my purpose, for example, what is what do you want the future to be like, you know? Because we older adults, older generations, I mean, I'm a millennial, but also a really late one. So I feel pretty I feel pretty old too. So we older generations are the ones who are really resisting to change, you know, are the really ones who prefer to stay in our comfort zones and just to maintain the status quo. I mean, not all of us, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I think that this obsession that we have with skills and with jobs in specific and with careers, which is for millennials, with our career was like our lives and everything revolves around it. I think that is changing, and younger generation really have a completely different mindset. Besides, I don't know, I find it really hard to really know how the future of jobs will be, because I don't really know how the job market will look like in the future. I mean, if we did, we wouldn't be here, right? So I think the question should be ask, asking you new generations, like, what can we learn from you? You know, what can we learn from new generations? I mean, we're already seeing that Gen Zs, Gen Alphas have a lot to teach us, but we should be listening to them and paying attention to them. And I think we're not. We're not listening to what they have to say. And if we listen really careful, I think we will have an answer to these questions that are really haunting us at night, I think.
I think you're in a privileged position since you are a professional listener or reader, and so you are kind of, your brain works to identify actually what that is relevant, because you are in this mood of trying to find the things that are relevant. I think what's very interesting, one thing that you said regarding the skills and our obsession as millennials, or kind of like even not boomers, but the ones before millennials. I got lost like
everyone forgets about the next
gen. I don't know. It is about these careers, the skills, and that comes as well with how we evaluate things and what are the credentials that go with it. And that's another whole debate that we are finding, like credentialing and micro credentialing, and how can we issue credentials on learning that happens informally. Well, is it even a need? Do we need to put credentials on informal learning to transfer it? I think there's a lot of things here. So tell us what is, in your opinion, based on the trends that you're seeing, what is the future of credentialing? Where are we going? And which institutions will stick to it, or what things that you're seeing that are alternative on measuring learning are relevant and interesting out there?
Yeah, okay. To be honest with you, Andrew, I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, I think no one knows. It's a question that it's an open debate, and I think I'm more interested about your personal opinion based on your laser focus reading and trying to see what's relevant for us.
Thank you. Yes. Well, yeah, obviously no one knows what the future will look like. But I don't know. I think it goes back again to what I said before, because that the thing that many increasingly people are advocating for a change of perspective regarding grades. That's what really happening right now. It's not something that is going to happen in the future. It's happening right now. And how we evaluate or measure learning, right? I think we are moving from a metrics-based approach to a more human-centered, to a more holistic approach, because from all the way from preschool, since we are little kids, to all the way to college and even academia, the approach has been, all these years, the approach has been to evaluate who is better, who ranked better on a specific subject or on a specific competition or a course or a research topic even. Because metrics are a big part of our everyday life. I mean, we just need to take a look at social media, Instagram, Twitter, etc., and how many of us have evaluated or even devaluated ourselves according to the number of likes, shares, tweets, followers, and even subscribers. Talking about newsletters, and how many subscribers or followers or likes or little hearts we have. And that is really unfortunate, because it has taken a toll on many of us. But also many of us are really reevaluating what we thought was like the normal way of life. And some of us don't even want to a new way, a new normal. You know what they said, like, let's go back to the new normal, or let's start a new normal. No, we don't want that. We want a completely different thing. We want a completely different way of living. So in that sense, in my opinion, what my gut tells me is that many things are going to change in the coming years. Obviously, we are seeing that already. And that old school perspective based on metrics is going to be challenged. It's already been challenged. And I
I
don't
think what I'm seeing is that we are trying to, some people is trying to perpetuate the logic,
yeah,
like measuring things that are really hard to measure. I'm not saying they can't be measured, but it's like, how can we continue the status quo of the importance of KPIs and measuring and kind of like giving this kind of like metric system to a completely different, it's like it's easy to evaluate whether you know this or not. It's binary. Yes, no, you know that concept. But there's other things that I'm questioning myself whether they should be measured at all. And
yes,
there's a whole of effort being put on measuring those things. And how can we continue with that logic? And I personally sometimes teach at a culinary school, and I teach in a graduate program, and I'm asked to grade students. And I personally find it really hard because I don't give a fuck. Sorry for language, but students do. And it's like, okay, should I play the game and say what I really think? It's like, no. So I just put tens, but then there's no value to it. Or I just put five. But for me, it doesn't matter, but doesn't it matters to them. And then they come to you, it's like, why did you put me a five? It's like, because I don't care. You're rubbish. No, it's not like, but I personally struggle with that when I'm asked to grade students. It's like, no, please. I don't
yeah.
know.
But
That's
it matters to them because the world they're living, the world we are all living, is based on that metric. And
I tell them I never got a job because I had a 7 or an 8. I never got a job for that. Your grades don't matter. It matters your network, and it matters how
you
the
think,
relations that you build.
yeah, and how exactly how what the relations do you build, not only based on your career, on your or the future of your job, or the next job you're going to get. See, just like the community around that you build around yourself. But I feel you. I mean, I have never teach. I am not a teacher, but I will struggle as well to if I have to grade anyone. So, but but yeah, that's the world we're living right now. And but there are movements around the world that are starting to challenge that idea. I mean, many universities in the US are starting to like get rid of all entry exams.
Yeah. I
SAT.
like SATs and all that stuff. Like, it's not required to get into it.
Already, like, no, I don't need this. And even some people that some think are it's a crazy idea, or it's a crazy approach, but I don't know, maybe it's not that even, it's not that crazy even. Many are even suggesting like a lottery approach, you know, who gets in, who gets out, it's out of luck, and it's out of the number that you get from, you know, I don't know how to call it, but
Yeah, lottery. Yeah.
yeah, from a lottery. And I don't know, I think that's interesting. I mean, because honestly, our lives are really like impacted by our context and by our backgrounds, you know. So how lucky are we, how to get to be a certain person in the future is not only, it's not based, as you said, on the grades I got from school, or the grades I got from college. It is based basically on the networks that are around me, you know.
Yep. So we just need to focus on helping people to build meaningful networks that can just get them the opportunities they want, and that supports them in the process of figuring out who they are and what they're interested in doing and what are their purposes and all these things. But
Talking to people, this thing
yeah,
that we are doing right now is really valuable. And when we are so stuck in the numbers, and I'm not trying to say that evaluation is not important and the numbers are not important, that's not what I'm trying to say here, but what I'm saying is that sometimes we are so like focused on the metrics of so focused on the KPIs. I mean, we as observatory, we look at them every day. Sometimes we are so focused on that we lose perspective. We completely lose perspective on what's going on around us, what people need, what they are saying. Again, we should ask younger generations. I mean, what do you want? What do you think the future will look like? How can I help you? Nobody's asking those questions, and it's because this metric system has created a competition that is so how can I say it, so damaging. It has done a lot of damage in us, in people. We are competing with everyone. Oh, I have, I don't know, 10,000 followers on Instagram, or I have, I don't know how many on my newsletter. Oh, but I have more than you. And, I'm better than you because I have more likes. And it's not like that. I mean, how can we collaborate? And I think that this approach on metrics has made us really individualistic way of think that has that we have lost perspective on the community and how we can contribute to society in general.
We are heading towards the end, and kind of like I went very negative on credentials, and I think it's my personal thing that I really struggle to grade people and put numbers into people. So let's finish into a more positive. And again, I'm just going back to your laser reading and trying to see what's relevant. So on a positive note, tell us what are you personally are more excited about the innovations that you are seeing on education in any of the spheres, like whether it's work-based learning, whether it's kind of like credentialing. What are the things that we should be paying attention that gets you excited?
Yeah, I think we should be paying attention to the people again. As I mentioned before, the pandemic has revealed many problems that for decades have been affecting the educational or community, and it's making us rethink our vision of what education should look like, of the purpose of education, of what should be the role of universities in our society, for example. So, but more than anything, the pandemic has making us rethink how vital our physical and mental health is for us. And it is making us reevaluate our priorities, as I said before, and all of this is already creating enormous shifts around the world. So what I'm really excited is about this, that we are saying, no, this is not longer important for me, or it is, but it is not like the principal thing in my life. I mean, my career is important, yes, because I had to pay rent, I have to eat, I have to pay for electricity and water and whatnot, but it's not what moves me, and obviously COVID-19 really make us reevaluate how we see mental health issues. And I think that is really creating big changes in everyday life. And that's what I'm really excited about, the movements of people, the movements of community, the networks that are creating around the world to improve our lives, to improve
Could you name us a couple of communities we should follow? Like we follow the newsletter you curate, like give us names, people that we could share with our community that I think that it's interesting. Do you have a couple of names of communities that are worthwhile doing interesting things?
Well, I really many of them, but Anne-Helen Peterson, do you know her?
Sorry?
Does it ring anything for you? Anne-Helen Peterson?
Nope.
she writes a newsletter that is called Culture Study. And she is really writing about these issues along with her partner. I don't remember his name, but she has this, I think it's weekly newsletter that you can subscribe on for free. And she is really making a community around her regarding these issues that we've been talking about here today. So Ann-Helen Peterson, Google her. Who else? Well, all the feminist movements that are around the world are really important, and we should be listening to what they have to say. So yeah, feminists, please, we should be listening to them. And obviously younger generations, as I said before, I mean, no one asks like children and youngsters what they think about anything. I mean, we think that we as adults, we know everything, and that they don't know anything about the world because they are so young. But I don't think that's true. We should be asking them really what they think, and how can we improve our lives, how can we improve our community. So I'm struggling here. I don't know why.
Don't worry. I put you on the spot asking you names. So don't worry.
Peterson will lead you towards so many others. That I'm for sure. Yeah, and well, I don't know if I should say this here, but I'm really a fan of a podcast that is called Gente 2020. You know it? It's from Spain. That is also, I mean, it's new. It has like a year or so, but yeah, I'm really a fan of this podcast, Gente 2020. They talk about current issues, and
we will definitely check them out.
But yeah, not exactly regarding education in itself, but all that.
Well, I think we are very narrow when we talk about education, because it seems that we talk about walls and institutions, but one thing that when we talk to learners is like education doesn't finish when you leave school or when you leave college. It's like education, it's all around you. It's all the interactions that you have as the people that you meet. It's what the learners that you extract from those. So for us, it's like, I think it's great that you're talking about things that are not strictly related to formal education and kind of like institution education, because it's much broader. So when we talk about educators, we don't talk about teachers, we talk about parents, we talk about peers, we talk about aunts, we talk about anyone that is interacting. We are all educators. So I think it's like broadening the perspective of what education is. It's just already great for you to share other things that we can follow that are outside of our traditional focus and scope. Thank you very much for sharing all your insights and the time that you spend with us. Hopefully we can get together eventually and have a coffee and continue this conversation face to face. So I will, as I said, thank you, Karina. I will let kind of like Cecilia close this. I think we have a following episode in a couple of weeks or maybe later, but let Cecilia close that because she's got the juice.
Yes, thank you so much, Karina. I've been sitting here in the background and just listening in and nodding and along with the talk. So thank you so much for being here with us today and for sharing your insights. And thank you, Andrea, for leading this interview. And thank you all for watching. It's been a pleasure. As I mentioned at the beginning, follow us on LinkedIn to keep track of future events and RSVP there. We also have a newsletter, which I've linked below in the video, where you can subscribe to our newsletter. Just also to keep, for like another, to just keep track of all of our events and what's going on. And obviously we will link the resources that Karina has shared with us, and also the newsletter that she runs. So thank you all for joining this conversation, and hopefully we'll see you soon again.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you. It was fun.